The Ormiston family in 1500 Scotland, emphasising their strength and survival amidst difficult times, with James Ormiston, the Black Laird, showing loyalty to the Queens of Scotland.
Ormiston, they're strong people, worthy, had loyalty, and they went down in history. Could have been a better history, but they are survivors, and hopefully will vindicate the James Ormiston line. It's so easy back then to get wrapped up in situations because you're just trying to survive. And it's the same thing today. It's easy for people to get wrapped up in situations and suddenly they realize they're on the wrong side or couldn't get out of it.
The origin of the Ormiston surname in ancient Scotland, featuring Orm's settlement and elements like Orma, from Norse mythos, snake, serpent, or dragon. The scene captures the early medieval landscape during the reign of King William, the Lion of Scotland.
This ancient Scottish name, Ormiston, is of locational origin, deriving from either of the places called Ormiston in the former counties of East Lothian and Roxburgh Shire. The place name means Ormes settlement from the Old Norse personal name Orm, originally a byname meaning snake, serpent, or dragon, with the Old English 7th century. The Leslie pronunciation of the place name is Wormston, and the modern surname can be found as Ormiston, with or without an E, and Ormiston, the latter found mainly in Northumberland. And it talks more about other Ormistons, but a different date, the 1200s, the 1600s. Surname became necessary when governments introduced personal taxation. In England, this was known as poll tax. Throughout the centuries, surnames in every country had continued to develop, often leading to astonishing variants of the original spelling.
A serene view of Hawick in Scotland, conceptualized as the Ormiston stronghold. The image captures the rolling hills, historic town landmarks, and a feeling of ancestral connection, reflective of a letter reminiscing a family's visit to their roots. Hawick, which he describes as the Ormiston stronghold.
Say W-I-C-K, and to me, if I just look at that, I want to pronounce Hawick or something like that. But when we went to Scots, and we talked to those people, they set us straight. It's Hawick. Hawick was an important place here. Then we went back down to Hawick, South, which is the Ormiston stronghold from which we descend. There is a furniture store there owned by an Ormiston, also a prominent butcher there named Ormiston. The Hiviot River flows through Hawick. We never could locate the junction of the Cale and Hiviot, although there were references to the Cale in some of the old literature. The name must have been changed over the years on any modern day map. We were there over the May Day holiday and the library was closed. There were two major graveyards near Hawick. The Wilton Cemetery was the first, and we found a few Ormistons buried there. There was an older cemetery and a churchyard, which had been grassed over. All the markers gone. Next, we went to Melrose Abbey. And I want to say something about Melrose Abbey. Those abbeys are massive, really big. In pictures, you don't always get a perspective on a building. And an abbey is like church. The churches back then, they called them abbey. And they were Catholic. When we got there to Melrose and we came across it, I was just absolutely astonished at the size of these abbeys. And of course, it's just the stonework that's left. If you could just imagine it undamaged with the windows, the stained glass windows that they would have had, it just takes your breath away. And so that told me how powerful the Catholic Church was. Many times when people died, they handed over their entire estate, all their land, over to the Catholic Church. And then, of course, they tithed every week. Very compelled to tithe back then. And not only were they impressive that way, but they were just powerful within the community and with the monarchy. the people who were educated back then, the ones that knew how to read and write, generally speaking, were the ones that grew up and were educated by the monks and the nuns at the abbey. They didn't really have a traditional school system. And then maybe the ones that did learn, they passed down what they learned to their siblings or their own family. You can just realize they were operated like a government, but they were a religion. The monarchy relied on, they worked hand in hand with religious people because they always had money, generally speaking. And when monarchy ran into trouble with not having enough money, they would turn to the church. So continuing on here. Next, we went to Melrose Abbey and found the graves. Most of the gravestones are weather-worn and the inscriptions are usually hard to read. The abbey had the layout of the grave and who is buried there. I guess there were 4 or 5 Ormiston there, although, as stated, many of the markings were too hard to read. It was a pleasant trip. I recommend it. I thought I might be disappointed, but was pleasantly surprised. The book has several references to our illustrious Black Laird. You can look him up in the index. And then in parentheses, the steel bonnet. So that's the book he's referring to. Steel bonnet. Scottish authors. George Ormiston and Elizabeth Rutherford. Those are James Ormiston's parents. George Ormiston had 2 brothers, a William Ormiston and a Robert Ormiston of Old Melrose. And that Robert Ormiston of Old Melrose is the Uncle Robert, second son of Robert Ormiston of Ormiston. And that is Uncle Rob. He was the equerry to King James V. Equerry is like in charge of the horses to King James V, who was married Queen Scots' father, from 1526 to 1538. And that is recorded in Miss Ormiston Pivot Delville. King James V, Mary's father, was born 1512. Uncle Robert was born 1505, and James Ormiston was born 1515. So Uncle Robert was about 10 years older than James Ormiston. Uncle Robert's father married an older brother. Uncle Rob was involved in the Darnley assassination, which happened on February the 10th, 1567. At that time, Uncle Rob would have been about 62 years old. Uncle Rob resigned his estate to his son, John, in 1567, and that is because that's when he got implicated him in the murder of Darnley. So he resigned his estate to his son to keep it in the family. So he says he resigned his estate to his son, John Ormiston, 1567, just prior to being outlawed for the Darnley episode. Uncle Rob was on speaking conversational terms with Marie de Guise, which is Mary's mother, when she was regent, Dowager Queen. And Dowager means the title or status generally held by the widow of a king. And so she was a widow because Mary, Queen Mary, her father, the Queen's husband, James V, died in a battle the week after Mary was born. So she is a reigning queen, but she was a widow. Uncle Robert was forced to flee his estate in late 1567, and that indicates no further records exist. He has his heir John, is stated to be deceased in 1587. Uncle Rob, which made my son John, his son died in 1587, and then he, in turn, parted with the Melrose estate about 16. He went to his son. He passed it down to his son, who parted with the estate. So when John Ormiston, Uncle Rob's son, died in 1587, he handed it down to his son, who's also named Robert, and then she parted with the estate in 1619. Uncle Rob was equerry with James age 14 to 26 years. That would have been up to 1538. And then there was a little bit of a gap there from when he stopped. I don't know why he stopped being in charge of the horses, but in 1542, that was the year that King James V died in the battle, from complications from the battle, injury, and Queen Mary was born. The landed gentry. The landed aristocracy is essentially the category of nobility that inherently includes the noble privilege of owning land. Landed, in this sense, refers to land ownership, usually in the form of hamlet, country estate, very often provided a substantial income the people that got to the land, usually through tenant farms or lucrative rights of fishing, shooting, or hunting. So that's what I was saying last time about all of these nobles. They were assigned to these estates, these pieces of land, and that was your wealth. They did all kinds of things on the land, and fed themselves. They grew sheep, and they had wool, and they had just about everything they needed to survive. And they wanted to keep it going. They wanted to get wealthier and have more land, more power, and more